They say the departed can never truly rest unless their final rites are carried out with reverence. But what unfolds when a mighty ruler is laid into the ground without these sacred observances? In an ancient Yoruba settlement, the fragile harmony between the seen and unseen realms shatters, and the very soil rumbles with anger. Imagine if the land itself could pass judgment on both the living and the dead. When the ruler's furious spirit returns to torment the people, they plead to Moyo, the timeless goddess whose essence is as old as the clay beneath their feet. Yet will she grant forgiveness, or will she exact vengeance upon those who dared ignore her will? So lean back, for here comes another journey into African legends revealed. But before the tale deepens, I want to ask you something. I know many of you are watching from across the globe, united by a fascination with African folklore. Let's reconnect. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I'll be there in the comments sharing with you. And if this story moves you, a like and subscription will mean everything. Now, let us return to the tale. Deep within a vast woodland beneath the endless skies of southwestern Nigeria, stood a community of the Yoruba whose ancestry was rooted in sacred ground. Here, the living and departed were tied by unseen bonds, and the earth bore the weight of tradition. The villagers honored many deities, but none commanded more devotion than Idia, the goddess of the earth, called Mother of the Land. Idia was the keeper of fertility, peace, and justice. She embodied the soil's power to nourish, yet also to devastate. Through her blessings, life sprang from the earth's richness, and through her wrath, it was taken away. Through seasons of drought and hunger, she remained the giver of sustenance. Yet beyond being a nurturer, Idia stood as the supreme judge. She measured the souls of the departed and chose their destiny beyond this world. The people knew that to anger Idia was to summon calamity. The village elders often spoke her name with awe, warning that even the mightiest rulers must obey her decrees. Her verdicts were unshakable, and no man, regardless of his throne, could stand above them. In this settlement lived a chief called Nwosu, a ruler whose reach spread wide like the sprawling roots of an ancient baobab. Nwosu commanded with stern authority, both respected and feared. His word carried the force of law, and the villagers obeyed him without hesitation. But as years passed, Nwosu grew arrogant, scorning the sacred practices meant to revere the deities. He believed himself too great, too powerful to bow before traditions he dismissed as trivial. When sickness struck him, the community braced for the end. Yet in pride, the chief refused to let his passing be marked by the humble rites of his ancestors. He boasted before the elders, "My strength surpasses all ritual. Even the land will yield to my will." On the day of his death, his body was placed in a shallow grave. There were no chants, no sacred leaves, no invocations to the spirits of kin. The elders, knowing the cost, kept their silence as the ancient customs were abandoned. The earth stirred faintly beneath their feet, though none dared mention it. Nwosu's command had been final. As the night descended, the first omen appeared. The winds roared with a ferocity unseen before, and, that night, the villagers were pierced by a distant haunting wail that froze their very souls. It was the cry of Nwosu's spirit returning to his homeland. His soul had not found rest. By morning, unsettling events unfolded. Fields once green and thriving turned brown and lifeless. Animals grew sick and collapsed. Children, who once filled the air with laughter, now sat pale and silent. Worst of all, a heavy, unnatural cloud spread across the sky, blanketing the village in an inescapable gloom. The elders assembled in trembling fear, for they recognized these as signs of Idia's wrath. The chief had defied the sacred burial rites, and now his wandering spirit sought revenge for the dishonor done to him. The goddess's anger pressed upon them, leaving no path but to beg for her compassion. Their spiritual guide, an aged man named Durojoye, rose before the council. His tone was grave as he declared, "The land itself rages, my kin. The chief has broken divine law. Without the rituals of passage, his soul cannot rest. The harmony has been shattered. Only through Idia's grace can we be saved." One elder whispered in despair, "But how can we, fragile mortals, confront a goddess so powerful?" Durojoye's gaze was solemn as it swept across their eyes. "We must approach her," he replied firmly. "We must beg her pardon. Yet first, we must give her what she demands." Thus, the council resolved to travel into the forbidden forest, the place believed to lie closest to Idaya's domain. They knew the path ahead would be perilous. Tales spoke of immense trials awaiting any who dared seek the goddess's blessing. The road was dangerous, filled with threats of both the flesh and the spirit. Yet the elders had no alternative. The restless chief's soul demanded judgment, and only Idaya could deliver it. As they pressed deeper into the tangled wilderness, the air thickened, and an unnatural silence engulfed them. The soil beneath their feet felt alive, as if weighing each step with suspicion. No bird sang, no branches stirred. It was as though the land itself waited, breath held, for their arrival. At last, they entered a clearing where the very air glimmered with a golden glow. Here, the goddess's power was strongest. Falling to their knees, the elders whispered prayers into the earth, pleading for guidance and pardon. Then, a voice boomed, resonant like rolling thunder, "You seek forgiveness, yet justice must come first." Trembling, the elders lifted their eyes. Before them rose a towering presence, her skin gleaming with the hues of fertile soil, her gaze timeless, burdened with countless ages. It was Idaya, the mother of the land, and displeasure radiated from her. The air grew heavy, charged with her force. The very ground seemed to beat like a living heart, while trees and stones loomed watchful in silence. Idaya's words rumbled again, shaking their souls. Her voice thundered through their very souls, shaking the air around them. "You ask for mercy on behalf of a man who rejected the sacred passage of death." The words rumbled like quaking mountains. But the soil has already delivered its judgment. Bowing low before the towering goddess, the elders felt the crushing weight of their own failure. Durojuie, the spiritual guide, rose with trembling humility, his voice breaking as he pleaded, "Great Idaya, we stand before you seeking compassion for our people." Chief Nwosu was a mighty ruler, and now his restless soul spreads ruin across the land. "We beg you to forgive us, that this curse might be lifted." Idaya's eyes narrowed, her hand rising slowly, fingers curling like the roots of ancient trees. "I hold no forgiveness for those who defy the sacred order." Nwosu was laid to rest without honor, his soul left wandering in torment. His fury has seeped into the soil, and it will grow, just as surely as harvests now wither in his absence. The elders pressed their foreheads to the ground, realizing her wrath could not be easily calmed. They had sought her pity, yet justice demanded its course first. Still, the goddess's tone shifted, softening faintly as she declared, "It is not only Nwosu's spirit that weighs upon the balance. Your people, too, are guilty. You allowed his hurried burial. You neglected the customs of your ancestors. His failure is yours as well." Durojuia's heart sank as the weight of their guilt pressed upon him. They had allowed Nwosu's arrogance to blind their judgment, and now the entire community bore the consequences. "Great Idaya," he whispered, lifting his eyes to meet the goddess's unyielding gaze, "how can we atone? What must we do to restore balance and soothe the earth?" Idaya's face revealed no emotion, her stare piercing into their very souls. She stood unmoving, her presence as steady and eternal as the land itself, unyielding, yet always shifting. "Justice must be fulfilled," she declared. "Nwosu must be honored as tradition demands. Yet more than this, your people must mend the harmony they themselves have broken. Only then shall I free his spirit." The elders had been tasked with a burden they had not foreseen. It was no longer enough to complete the burial rites for Nwosu. They would have to face their collective failure and rebuild the balance of their people. Idaya's decree was final. Nwosu's restless soul could not be calmed unless the village embraced its responsibility. Until then, the earth would withhold its gifts, the soil would remain barren, the rains absent, and the harvest empty, until justice was restored. In the days that followed, the village prepared for the trials set before them. Durojuie and the council summoned the people together, retelling the legends of their ancestors and the sacred ties that bound them to the land. The community resolved to perform the rites for Chief Nwosu, but also to undergo a profound spiritual cleansing to heal the broken harmony. It was a task that demanded sacrifice, reflection, and unity. The restless presence of Kanu's spirit lingered over the settlement. What was once a thriving land now trembled with fear. The night wind whistled through the tall palms, carrying with it unseen footsteps that pressed upon the soil, though none dared to walk. Flickering shapes crept into the corners of every hut, shadows shifting in the fire's glow. Yet it was the piercing cry of the tormented soul that chilled their hearts most, the hollow wail of one denied his due. As the villagers labored to prepare sacred offerings and rites, the earth seemed to stir in response. The parched ground softened, though it trembled with unease. The elders feared that Nara's fury would soon consume them if they failed. So, beneath the light of the first full moon since the chief's death, the people assembled at his resting place. Elder Chaik led the way, his chest heavy with the burden of their guilt. Behind him, the entire community carried bundles of sacred leaves, herbs, and offerings to appease the spirits of their ancestors, gathering before Kanu's grave. At the center, Chaik knelt, gripping a ceremonial blade. "We stand before you, great Nara, to honor the soul of Kanu and to mend the harmony we have broken. Let his spirit be at peace, and let the land heal from the scars we carved." As his chant rose, the ground beneath them quivered. At first, it was a soft shiver, as though the earth stretched after long sleep. But then came a heavy rumble, closer, swelling from deep below. And before their eyes, Kanu's spirit rose from the soil, his figure shadowy, wrapped in an aura of fury and grief. The villagers recoiled, fear etched across their faces at the sight of the raging phantom. Yet Elder Cairo stood unwavering, his tone calm as he addressed it. "Duro, ruler of our land, we have come to grant you the honors denied in death. We beg for your pardon and seek to mend our failure." The spirit of Duro wavered, his form twisting like smoke caught in a restless wind. His eyes glowed with the wrath of the earth itself. "You abandoned me," Duro's voice thundered, hollow and sharp as a storm. "I was your king, yet you betrayed me in my final hour. The earth will never forget this treachery." But Cairo, strengthened by the power of the great earth goddess, stood firm. "We admit our failing, but now we offer you the respect you deserve. Through the soil, we return what is owed." As the villagers performed the ancient rites, Duro's shadowed form began to calm. His fury slowly ebbed, and the trembling land beneath them softened once again. The ghost did not vanish at once. The people understood healing would take time for wounds to close and balance to return. Yet as the goddess's presence faded into the earth, the villagers knew they had acted as required. Harmony had been restored. The next dawn, a profound stillness blanketed the village. The air, once thick with dread, now felt light, as though the land itself had sighed in relief. Weary but hopeful, the people moved through their day together. The winds were quiet, the ghosts' wails no longer carried through the night, and the heavy darkness that once overshadowed their lives had lifted. The lingering shadow over the village had finally begun to lift. Though the land bore the marks of its recent turmoil, small signs of renewal appeared. Crops that had once wilted now pushed tiny green shoots through the soil. Livestock that had been weak and listless now stirred, regaining vitality. The long-awaited rains fell gently, cooling the earth and nourishing the fields. Yet the villagers knew the balance was not fully restored. The chief spirit, though no longer wrathful, remained in the spirit realm, tethered by the justice demanded by Idiah. Only when the goddess granted complete forgiveness would true peace return. Elder Cairo stood in the center of the village one morning, gazing across the recovering fields. His face was lined with fatigue, but his heart brimmed with determination. The work was far from complete. The elders had done their duty, but the entire community needed to continue the healing process. Days later, the council reconvened. They had finished the sacred rites for Chief Nwosu, restoring the honor denied to him. Now, it was time to offer the final prayers to Idiah, seeking her full blessing. At the heart of the village stood the ancient baobab, its colossal branches and roots intertwined with the land. Beneath its vast canopy, the last offering would be made. Villagers gathered around the tree, led by Cairo, who raised his voice above the solemn assembly. "Great Idiah, Mother of the Earth, we stand before you once more, humbled by your eternal power. We have honored the departed, fulfilled their rites, and embraced the teachings of balance and respect. We ask that you now grant peace to our village so we may live in harmony with the land." The villagers stood in solemn silence, eyes closed in prayer, offering their deepest gratitude to Idiah for her mercy. The air grew still, and the soil beneath their feet seemed to respond. A distant rumble arose, low but unmistakable, and the ground quivered as if acknowledging their devotion. At the heart of the village, Idiah manifested once more. Her presence was no longer towering and fearsome, but serene and radiant, blending seamlessly with the earth. Her skin shimmered like freshly turned soil, her eyes deep pools of wisdom and understanding. She surveyed the villagers, and a hush fell over the assembly. "You have acted as required," Idaea spoke, her voice resonating like the heartbeat of the earth itself. "You have restored the rites, admitted your errors, and delivered justice to the land. Through your humility and labor, balance has returned." The villagers, trembling with relief, bowed their heads in gratitude. Elder Cairo spoke on their behalf. "We thank you, great Idaea. Your mercy will guide us forever." Idaea's gaze softened, and she nodded slowly. "I have witnessed your sincerity. For this, I grant peace. The spirit of Nwosu has been honored, and his soul rests at last. The earth too shall heal in time." As Idaea spoke, the earth itself seemed to stir in response. Once barren fields now bristled with life. Crops grew tall and vibrant, and animals previously weak and sickly regained their strength. The skies cleared, and gentle rains fell, promising abundance and renewal. "Remember," Idaea's voice resonated, calm but solemn, "the balance of life is fragile. The living must honor the departed, and the departed must rest peacefully. The earth is both nurturer and judge, and it will never forget those who transgress against it." Elder Cairo nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "We will not forget. We will continue to honor the land and our ancestors, for our future depends upon it." With these final words, the goddess slowly faded, her form dissolving into the soil she had always embodied. The villagers, standing together, felt her presence lift, replaced by a profound sense of peace. In the following weeks, the community reflected deeply on the lessons learned. They continued to honor their ancestors and the land, ensuring past mistakes were not repeated. Chief Nwosu's grave was restored with proper rites, and his spirit was laid to rest. Though sorrow lingered, the villagers knew he had received the honor he deserved, and through their efforts, the harmony that had been broken was finally restored. This tale of Idaea, the earth goddess, holds enduring cultural significance among the Igbo and many other African peoples, emphasizing the vital importance of maintaining balance between the living, the dead, and the land. This tale also underscores the importance of respect between the living and the departed, and the need to honor the earth and its sacred customs. Idaea embodies both the nurturing and destructive forces of the land. She serves as a reminder that the earth sustains all life but demands reverence in return. In Igbo traditions, the earth is not merely physical but deeply spiritual, capable of shaping lives, weather, and prosperity. The myth of Idaea teaches that the natural world should never be taken for granted, and that its gifts come with responsibilities. Respecting ancestors and performing burial rites properly are essential for maintaining harmony with both the earth and the spirit realm. Idaea's role as a goddess of fertility and a judge of the dead illustrates the intricate connection between life, death, and the land. Her judgment is a matter of natural law, not personal vendetta, and must be honored. This story emphasizes that justice and mercy must coexist, and that honoring the past is key to ensuring the future. If you found the story of Idaea compelling, remember to like and comment below. Which African myth should we explore next? Share your suggestions, as I am always eager to delve deeper into the rich tapestry of African legends. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, so you won't miss future journeys into the timeless wisdom of African mythology. May the earth grant you peace and prosperity until we meet again.